Hello, welcome to my YouTube channel Kiwi Bushcraft and Survival. I'm Glenn Vickery, and today I'm going to be reviewing this necklace here. It's a necklace that's made of jade. Okay, the stone is made of jade, and I purchased it from a place called Jelly Dragon. I'm going to zoom it in here for you on the screen. Hopefully you can see that. I'll just move this chair out of the way a little bit. Okay, so I purchased it. This is what I bought. A Banded Jasper Viking Whetstone. Okay, I purchased it off Etsy. Where I purchased it from is a place called Jelly Dragon. Okay. They have a site on Etsy. Etsy is spelled E-T-S-Y, Echo Tango Sierra Yankee. This is their website here. This is their diagram. Okay, and they're basically do Viking items, handmade Viking items, okay, and so they do all kinds of different bushcraft and other items. On my necklace here, you can probably see this little white thing here. That's a ceramic striker. Okay, I bought that separate from Etsy as well. That's the thing there, if you can see that. Okay, it's called a two-pack ceramic ferro rod striker, mini size EDC survival kit for fire starter. Okay, and also I've added up here, you can see a little ferro rod. All right, a little ferrocerium rod. Okay, and I also purchased those, I think, off Etsy. Here they are here. Okay, and they're called FR1 ferro rod toggle for emergency fire starter. Okay, so I've purchased those, and so that's what I got there, and it comes with a leather necklace. Alright, I can't remember how long the necklace is, the actual cord. I think it's like about 120 millimeters or centimeters or something like that. It's 90 centimeter leather cord. It's quite a thin leather cord, and it needs to be able to fit through the hole. Okay. Alright. But yeah, so this is it here. Alright, so let's get into it. A couple of other things that I purchased when modifying this Jasper stone was, you've probably seen it before, it is, I bought these off Amazon. Okay, they're a set of files. They're called a SE 6-piece flat diamond grip file set. Okay, and that's them there. Alright, okay, a set of diamond files. Okay, now these here, they go from 40 grit being the most coarse grit, 40 grit, 80 grit, 150 grit, 240 grit, 400 grit, and 600 grit. Okay, so I'm going to be using these during for this video. That's why I'm showing you these particular items, as in the files themselves. Okay, right. So let's get stuck into it. The first thing I want to quickly show you with the Jasper is that the Jasper I found is actually genuine jasper. Okay, so it's not a fake or anything else. It's genuine. Now there's a what's called a Mohs scale, which does the hardness scale, and these are normally shown on the Mohs hardness scale as at least 6.5 to 7 on the Mohs scale, and these ones here are definitely 7, okay, because to strike these and create embers, okay, it needs to be at least, I believe, 7 on the Mohs hardness scale. So what I'm going to do now, now this, just before I get into it, that ceramic striker there, okay, you can see that ceramic striker, alright, that there is for scraping on the ferrocerium rod, okay, to create sparks. But the jasper here itself can make sparks itself. Okay, so I'm going to zoom in a little bit more, hopefully, to give you a example. So hopefully I don't burn the house down. Should do. Alright, so here we go. Okay, now I'm not hitting it too hard, and not even trying, okay, and they're certainly going down on there. So I'm going to now look at the camera while I do this to see if you can see that, because I'm not sure if you can actually see it or not. Well, I don't know if you can see that. I can't look at the camera at the same time, okay, but it's certainly coming off. Okay, now what that will do is it will slightly chip your stone. Okay, you can see the little bit of chips there. So it is chipping the stone slightly, but it will create sparks with a steel. So I mean, this necklace is an EDC, so it's an everyday carry. Okay, so it's really only for emergency. So knowing that you can strike this on high carbon steel, okay, not all high carbon steels from what I understand, but most high carbon steels will be able to strike sparks for you with this in an emergency. Okay, so if this is all you've got, okay, then you know you're golden. All right, you'll be able to get sparks and start a fire. Okay, now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to that you can use this as a sharpener, as a whetstone. Now when I say whetstone, whetstone actually means to sharpen. It doesn't mean to sharpen with water. Now you can use water with this, you could use oil with it, or you could just use it on its own. Again, as an EDC, in an emergency, having something like this to sharpen up your knife, touch it up, is a great thing to have, and knowing that you don't need oil or water to do that. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to sharpen this knife. Now this knife here is blunt, okay. it's blunt, okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you that it's blunt. We're going to try and cut this paper. Okay, you can see that it's blunt. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to sharpen this knife. Okay, but there's a catch with it. Okay, this here, from my experiments, is only good for sharpening a stone, sharpening your knife, sorry, as a sharpening stone for whatever grit you set it to. Okay, now currently I have this here set to 400 to 400 grit, and between 400 and 600 grit is what it's set to on one side. Okay, on the side of where the ceramic striker is, and I've set the other side of the stone that's closer to my body to what was it? I think it's 800 to 1200 grit. Okay, between 800 and 1200 grit. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to explain that now. I'm just going to lift this slightly so my head's not out of the shot. Okay. So, what I've learned is that when you set the grit to your stone, what you do is you get the lowest grit file that you can, and you want it to be preferably a diamond file. I've tried carbide sandpaper, okay, I think it's called something carbide sandpaper, that's supposed to be very, very silicon carbide sandpaper, and it's supposed to be very, very strong, very, very hard, and I didn't notice any output from it. It was useless. It may have just been the sandpaper I was using, but a file, a diamond file like these ones, very cheap. These are excellent. I've found these are absolutely excellent. Now, how you set the bevel, okay? Not the bevel. How you set the grind on here, or how you lap it, or whatever you want to call it. I would call it setting the grind. Okay, is for me, when I set it to 400, between 400 and 600, I use the 40 grit diamond file. Okay, and what I did was you get the file and you basically just scratch it. Okay, you scratch the surface of the stone. Okay, now when you're doing this, you want to be keeping it kind of flat. Okay, so you know that's another reason why some people may call this lapping the stone. Okay, because you're basically kind of flattening it. Okay, now you can do this underwater, you could do this with oil, or you could do it how I'm doing it here, which is just without anything. Okay, and basically what you're doing is just scarring it. Now I've already scarred mine prior to this, so I don't need to really do it again. I'm just doing it to show you. All right. Now what I would do there is probably just get some water and wipe it down, wash it down, okay, to take all the dust particles out of there. But it's not necessarily. Wipe it on your clothes or whatever, okay, alright, and done deal. Right, so that's how you'd lap it. Now, how long would you do that for? When I first did it, I did it for about 5 to 10 minutes under a tap, okay, initially. But I've also done it like how I just did it here, okay, without being under a tap, and that was just trial and error, trialing it out to see how it would work. And both work just as well. Now, this is a 40 grit, okay, and I've lapped it onto here, or created a grit onto here. Now, this is 40 grit. This is now, from what I can measure, 400 to 600 grit, okay. Now, how did I get that? Basically, whatever you put on here, you can times it by 10, this. So 40 times 10 is 400. There's your 400 grit. Up to 40 times 15 is 600 grit. So if you multiply whatever grit you put onto here, you rub in, multiply it by 10 to 15, okay, and that'll be the grit that you're looking at, that you're putting into here. And how do I know that? I've tested it on knives, okay, a few knives now, to find out exactly what grit it is, okay. So you're borderlining on between, you know, 4 to 600 grit when you're doing this, okay. So that's how I've worked it out. So on the other side, I'll just put this 41 away so I don't thing it. On the other side, this is the 80 grit now, the 80 grit file, and on the other side that I wear against my body, so it's a little bit smoother, I lapped it or set the grit with this file. And I think saying the word set the grit is probably more accurate. It's less likely to be confused with lapping, because there's different terminology for lapping. And of course you'd do the same. You'd scratch that side of the stone, okay, and you'd scratch it with the 80 grit. Okay, now because I've already done this before with about 5 to 10 minutes under a tap, okay, I'm not going to I'm not really needing to redo this, okay. Now this file, these diamond, are stronger than, it's a stronger stone, diamond, than jasper, and that's why it's able to take material off the jasper, okay. And when I was striking the jasper against the steel here, okay, and creating sparks, this jasper is stronger or harder than this high carbon steel. So it was actually striking down and taking material off, taking very fine slithers of metal off the steel, and making them so hot as they come off that they turn into bright orange embers, and they're very bright. This really creates really hot, bright orange embers. It's really good. Okay. Now that you know how to lap or set the grit on your stone, you can put whatever grit you want. Okay. So this 80 grit would give me, okay, you go 80, where's my calculator? Basically 80 times 10 is 800, alright, 80 times 10 is 800, and 80 times 15 I believe is 1200 grit. So this side would be now set to, you know, after you've done 5-10 minutes and you're happy with it, would be set to 800 to 1200 grit. So between that range, that's what you're going to be using when you're sharpening a knife, okay. So these are really used, these grits that are set on here now, for sharpening a knife that is kind of sharp but not sharp enough. That's where you'd use the 400 to 600 grit side, and then you'd swap over to the 800 to 1200 side and finish it off. And that's a very sharp knife at that point for a bushcraft knife, okay. Even, you know, most knives, all right, for whatever you're going to use it for. However, if a knife needed, let's say 200 grit stone to sharpen it, to get it sharp, or less than that, you know, as in more coarse than that, this wouldn't do it for you, okay, unless you could find a file that could that could be even coarser to get it down. All right. So another example would be, let's say you had a file that was 20 grit, okay, If it was a 20 grit file, then you could make one of the sides on here, when you set the grind, if it was a 20 grit file, then this here would be 200 to 300 grit. Okay, so 20 times 10 is 200, and 20 times 15 is 300. Okay, so it would be a 200 to 300 grit on the actual stone, the side that you rubbed, okay, scratched. All right, so that's how it works. All right, I'll give you one more example. If this file was 200 grit, okay, 200 grit file, and you filed it onto the stone here, okay, the stone would then be 200 times 10 would be 2000 grit, okay, and 200 times 15 would be 3000 grit. So that side that you rubbed with this 200 grit stone or file would make this side that you rubbed 2000 to 3000 grit. So you can set the grit to whatever you want, as long as you have whatever grit you have. Okay, so that's where it's at. So the lowest I have, the two lowest that I have here is 40 grit and 80 grit, and that's why I've gone with the 4 to 600 and the 8 to 1200 on the other side. Okay, so now that that's out of the way, because that's very important, because now you can do it yourself, that's very important. So what I'm going to do, I've shown you that this knife is very, very blunt. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sharpen this knife off camera. I'm going to use the 40 grit diamond file, and then I'm going to go to the 80, and then I'm going to go to the 150, and then I'm going to go to the 240, right, and then I'm going to stop there. I'm going to stop at the 240, and then I'm going to come back and turn the camera on, and I'm going to show you how well it sharpens, or how well it's sharpened at the 240 grit. And then what we're going to do is we're going to bring out the Jasper stone that's set to 4 to 600, and I'm going to carry on sharpening it with the 4 to 600. And then I'm going to, when I'm finished with that, I'm going to flip it over, and I'm going to use the other side, which is 8 to 1200, and we're going to finish the sharpening off there. And then we're going to test this knife as we go through each of those last two courses with the stone here. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn the camera off, and I'll be right back. Okay, welcome back. So I've completed sharpening the knife with a 40 grit. Okay, so now I'm going to just test it out. Okay. Alright, so you can see it's cutting, not too bad. It's grabbing because it's got a few okay, it's got a few burrs on it, but it's now cutting with the 40 grit diamond file. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to the 80 grit diamond file. Okay, so I've completed sharpening it now with the 80 grit diamond file. Alright, and we're going to test it now. Alright, so it's still grabbing, but it looks like it's cutting a little finer. But so what we're going to do now is I'm going to go to the next one up, which is 150. So basically, you want to double your grit each time you sharpen. So I'm going from 40 to 80 to 150. Okay, so you're kind of doubling it. So if I went to 160, that would be perfect, but give or take, it doesn't really matter as long as you're in that ballpark of doubling the grit each time you sharpen it. So that's what I'm going to do now. Okay, welcome back. Okay, so I've just finished sharpening it with the 150 diamond file. Now we'll test that. Alright, so it's getting slightly better. Alright, so next one we're going to go to is the 240 grit. Alright, so I've completed the 240 grit. So let's test that out now. Kind of tearing. Sometimes it's cutting and other times it's tearing. That was cutting quite nicely there. Okay, that's the 240 grit. Okay, so what we're going to do now is next one is we're going to swap over to the 400. Yep. So we're going to swap over to the Jasper now. Okay, I'll just put this other one away. Okay, alright, let's bring you down so you can see what we're doing. Okay, and remember this side here, on the top side, I set that to 400, between 400 and 600. Okay, so it's a 400 to 600 grit. So now what we want to do, if you don't want to cut your your leather cord, I'd highly advise that you hold on to it. Now you could, if you wanted to, you could keep sharpening your knife could be at the point where it's you know, you did like at 400 grit. Okay, like on here there's a the next one up is 460 grit. We could have done 460 with the diamond sharpener. Okay, the diamond file. And then we could have still used this one because this one goes out to 600. And although you normally want to be doubling your when you're sharpening, you can go less. All right, it's completely up to you. So what I'm doing now is I'm going to feel for a burr on the other side. Okay, so there is a burr on the other side. Now when you're sharpening towards the blade, you want to be very careful. Alright, getting the burr on the other side as well. Now I'm going to take that burr off on this side. Sorry, my chair keeps squeaking. Feeling for a burr. Okay, so we just want to be taking the burr off now. We've had a burr on both sides, so it's just a matter of taking that burr off. We're still using the side with the ceramic striker on it, okay, because that's my, as I said, my 4 to 600 grit. What we're doing now is it's chucking the burr on each side as I go. So that's a good thing. So what I want to be doing now is just going lighter. Good. A little bit more of a burr on this side. We just want to like lightly take that burr off. So once you get the burr on both sides, you do one side, you get a burr on the other. You then do the other side and take the burr off, and it should move to the other side. And then what you want to do once you've been doing that, you know, you slowly want to remove that burr by just doing it lighter and lighter on the blade, okay, to just gradually remove that burr, okay. Okay, let's just grab a rag. Still a little bit more of a burr over here, up the back end here. Then it jumps to the other side, as it does. Jumps to the other side. And just, you know, if it keeps jumping, just very lightly run your stone down on both sides, just very, very lightly, you know, just to remove that burr. Let's try that. See how that's gone. Okay, there's slight burr on this side, but you know, that's alright. Let's see how she goes. Alright, so now we've been you know, using the 4 to 600 grit, okay. grabbing a bit, isn't it? Not happy with that, so I'm going over it again. Make sure we've still got the right side. Try that. Alright, there we go. Okay, let's move on to the other side. Okay, so now we're going to move on to what we used, the 80, so that'll be 800. Right, so now we're going to use the back side of the stone. Okay, it's the 800 to 1200 grit. Now you probably could sharpen a knife that was lower than we started on this when we'd done the 240. We probably could have started a little bit earlier on, say, the 150 when after we'd finished the 150 grit, but it would have taken us a bit longer. Okay, quite a bit longer probably. So I mean, you probably could still go below the grit that I'm using it for, but what I found is that the multiplying it by 10 and multiplying it by 15 gives you a good amount of grit to do what you need to be doing. Okay, I've found that it takes it to the next level. Okay, like what we just found there. Okay, now this one here is kind of the 800 to 1200 is kind of sharpening to almost getting to a bit of a polish. Now, how does it go from 800 to 1200? Well, that's basically as the stone starts to fill up with fibers. Okay, fibers of the metal fibers from the the knife, okay, that we're taking off, and also some of the potential, mostly off the knife, okay, because you know, you will probably lose some fibers off the stone, but not so much, okay. It is going to probably, you know, wear down a little bit, okay, but not much, okay. This should last you probably 3 lifetimes easily, right? Especially as you could, you know, hand it down as an heirloom to, you know, a friend or a family member. But see how we're going there. Just want to test the other side. Okay, there's a little bit of a burr, but what I'm going to do now is not a burr on the whole side, so I'm going to flip it over and just do this side as well, and then I'll go back to the other side and then try and get a burr. You want a burr all the way along the blade, okay, all along the bevel, the cutting part of the knife. You want a burr, and the knife is not done until you've got a burr all the way down that bevel, okay. It's very important that you have a burr, and a burr just means filings, like little shavings of the metal sticking over the other side. Now when you're doing this, you've got to be careful that you don't cut yourself and obviously your you know, your leather cord. How hard you press down is completely up to you. All right, as long as you have control of the knife and the knife and the Jasper Whetstone. Okay, and as you can see, I'm doing this without water. Now, in a survival situation, you may not have any water, okay, or you may have limited amount of water, and you don't want to be using your water to be sharpening your stone, okay. Yeah, I'm not sharpening your stone, I mean sharpening your knife or sharpening your axe or your machete or whatever it is that you're sharpening, okay. You may not want to use water, okay, and that's the reason why I'm doing this without water, to show you that you don't need water, okay. Now if you do have water, then you can use it, okay. What it will mean is it'll just mean that it's going to take some of the fibers out while you're cutting, and it should help to cut a lot faster, okay, but it's not necessary. It's not going to do any harm to your knife, and it's not going to do any harm to your Jasper stone, okay. And the reason why I'm using this, you know, just this drawer, is just so that I can, helps to keep the knife in place, okay, and steady, which can help to keep your angle the same. All right. Now you could do it freehand, where you just, you know, without having anything. All right. So I'm just feeling for the burr. Okay, there's a good burr down the end. Not so much here, but there is. I can just feel it. Still feel it. Now it picks up a little bit there as well. So maybe a little bit more around the middle. Make sure I'm on the right side of the stone. So if you get your knife, a bushcraft knife, up to 800 grit, you know, 800 grit cutting, you know, sharpness, right? That's good. Okay, there's nothing wrong with 800 grit for a bushcraft knife. Okay, that's a good grit. Okay, that's fairly sharp. Okay, in this case here, going between, you know, as it fills up, it's gonna push out to the, you know, the 1200. You know, that's sharp. There's nothing wrong with that at all for a, you know, that's more than weight. That's, I would say, not way more, but certainly a very sharp bushcraft knife. Okay, without a doubt. Okay, you're going to be slicing and dicing whatever you want, like that. Now this blade is the steel on this. I would assume, I don't know exactly what it is. I'm assuming that it's like maybe a stainless steel. What you know, quality of stainless steel, I don't know. It's just a steak knife that I got out of the kitchen. It was blunt, and I thought, hey, why not sharpen it for the video. Now you can imagine this in an emergency situation where you don't have a knife on you, okay, and you may have found a knife in someone's kitchen, or found a knife somewhere, and it's not very sharp. Okay, you could sharpen it up with this, because I mean, who carries around a sharpening stone on them, right? Or you could get separated from your pack, okay, your Bergen, get separated from your gear, and you may not have a sharpening stone in your backpack, you know, your day pack or whatever, okay, and you know, you've been using your knife or your machete or your axe, and you need to touch it up. Boom, you've got a sharpening stone on you all the time. And not only do you have a sharpening stone on you all the time, you have a way of starting fire as well. Okay. So if you're carrying around a high carbon steel knife, you know, you're carrying around a high carbon steel knife, and this, okay, one of these. And you obviously want to test it on the knife to make sure the knife will give off, you know, sparks, okay, because there, you know, I've heard some things out there where some people say that not all high carbon steel will give off sparks. So whether that's true or not, I don't know, but it's best to be on the safe side and test your gear first to make sure that's the case. It'd be good to see more research or videos on that particular topic. But one of these, you can sharpen your knife, sharpen your machete, and start a fire. Now I could do this off camera, but I know it's going to take a little bit longer doing it this way, but I wanted people to see, I want you to be able to see that I am actually doing it with the stone, okay, so you know it's not, you know, suspect or anything like that, alright? I'm just making stuff up. I did see one guy on YouTube that was doing this, and he sharpened the knife from what he said was from blunt, but he never actually, you know, cut the paper beforehand. So how blunt, who would know, right? Okay, it might have been, you know, 150 or you know, 240 grit blunt, like what we've done here. He didn't actually cut any paper to show, anything to show how blunt the actual knife was. Alright, so that's why I've shown you the sharpness each time I've gone up each grit. I just want to... Okay, there's a bit of a burr there on the end. Bit of a burr there. Still feels like a very slight burr on that side. In there. In there. So we've still got a little bit of a burr. I'm going to do it a little bit harder to get rid of these burrs. Again, just be very careful, you know. Obviously there's always a risk when you're going towards the blade. And there are ways around it, but I'm trying to do this as quickly as I can so the video won't be too long. Alright, can you still see that? I think you can. Alright, let's check that out. Alright, a little bit more on this side and we'll test it out, eh? I don't want to... I mean, I could go longer, you know, with this and get it a lot tidier, but I want to see how it's going. I don't want it to be too long. Alright, let's try that. Now on top of this, I mean, you could you know, get a what is it? Some a leather strop, and you could strop it as well after doing, you know, what we've just done, and just make sure that, you know, you're getting all the burrs off and whatnot. I could spend a bit more time on this with this particular side, the 800 to 1200, but we're going to try it, see how that is. Right, see how we go. Alright. It's got a couple of little parts where I think it's still catching. Okay, so I mean, we could do a bit more tidying up on the edges here. making sure that it's not catching. Seems to be just catching on a couple of very small spots, you know. Let's try that out. Still a little bit catching. Oh, that's why. It's got a big burr on this side. Just check that out. Burr on there. It's good though when you can feel the burr, because you know that the steel's been cut through to push the burr onto the other side. This side's been a bit of a, just up the tip here has been a little bit of a, so I'm going to hit it with part of the stone that I haven't used much, which is up the end here, just to push that over. It's a little bit better, but just there. That's a little bit better. Now let's check the other side. Yeah. Okay, let's just take that burr off. Okay. Make sure we've got the right side. It's all about the burr, you know. Once you get the burr, and then you've got to like just gradually take the burr away, and once you got the burr away, gone on both sides, then you've completed with that phase of the grit. That's feeling better. Okay. Burr's been pushed over to this side now, so I'm just going to start doing it a little bit lighter. And when you're getting rid of the burr, you don't want to be too hard on it, because you don't want to be ripping the burrs out, you know. You don't want to be ripping them out to the point where they're leaving microchips on your blade, okay. You want to be just kind of lightly taking them off the bevel, alright, just ever so. sometimes it can be like you're chasing the burr. Well, that's what I call it, chasing the burr. You get one side and then it pushes to the other, and then you get that side and it pushes to the other, and you're back and forth. But it's just a matter of feeling your way through it. It's a little bit of a burr just up the top here and here. So again, I'm going to go to because it's giving me a little bit of issues there, so I'm going to go up to the part of the stone where I haven't used much. That'll take me more closer to that 800. And boom, it's gone. Alright, let's try that. I want to be here all night. Right, let's try that out. It's grabbing just a little bit up here, but not too much. I think it probably needs a little bit more work on the on that side, just up in here. It's just grabbing just a tad there. But apart from that, she's going really well. Okay, so as opposed to what this knife was in the beginning, it's come a long way. Okay, if I put that into the kitchen now, and people would be able to slice tomatoes and you name it, no problem whatsoever. It would be an enjoyment to use. Okay, so if you're doing that with your bushcraft knife or whatever knife you've got, your work knife, you know, your EDC, whatever. Okay, you've always got a reliable sharpening stone on you. Now, you don't want to wait till your knife is completely blunt. Okay, with all knives you want to be touching them up every now and again, giving them a touch up. Basically, you don't want your knife to go any lower than what did we start off on, at the 240. Okay, once it's at the 240 grit, and you know when it's cutting how I showed you. Okay, it was cutting but not so great. You don't want it to go any lower than that. But if you get to that point, this will bring it back to where it is now. Okay, and this can be a little better with a little bit more work on this 8 to 1200 side. As it fills up with filings and that in the 800 to 1200, it'll become more sharper, and it will make the blade become more sharper because it's getting finer. Okay. And then all you got to do afterwards is wash this out with some water, okay, or oil, or spit, whatever you want. Rub it on your clothes, get whatever you can out, and it becomes more grittier to be able to carry on using it. All in all, this is a sharp knife now. Okay, even though it's just a steak knife, you can do this with any knife. Obviously, this is I'd say this is stainless steel. So it's a harder steel than high carbon steel. Okay, so stainless is harder. So if you were doing this on a high carbon steel knife, it would be much easier. It would be much easier and much faster because you can file those down faster. So all in all, my take on this this Jasper stone, it's a genuine Jasper stone. It's at least 7 on the Mohs scale, which is very hard, harder than stainless steel, harder than all steels basically. It's hard, okay? It's going to last a lifetime. You can use it to make sparks, to make a fire, with a tinder bundle or a bird's nest, whatever you want to use, some char cloth, anything like that, okay? Vaseline and wool, you'll get those fired up, no problem at all. This will get those started. Okay, as far as that is concerned, that's basically the end of it. Nothing wrong if you add a ceramic striker and a small ferro rod as an additional way of starting a fire, just in case you don't have a knife or a steel striker. Having the ceramic rod to strike or scrape the ferro rod here, well worth having as a complete backup. The leather strap here, it's very small, but you probably could, if you were very, very careful, you could probably, hook this strap around something, the leather strap, and just go against, away from the cutting edge on this leather and use it as a strop. That would certainly work. There's no reason why it wouldn't. It is leather, and just help to get those very, very fine filings off here. So even to this point here, I can still feel a little bit of a burr there. So a little bit more time on the 8 to 1200 would do this here justice, but I'm not going to carry on and bore you. You've got the idea. I hope this helps some people out there. If you're interested, I showed you where I bought mine so that you're getting it from a genuine place. You're getting the genuine, real thing, okay, the real stone. And I appreciate you watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you may have learnt something new. And if you enjoyed it, thumbs up, and take care. And I'll see you next time. Okay, I thought I'd just pop back and show you something else that I forgot to do, and that is the ceramic here, the ceramic striker. Okay, you can actually use ceramic for sharpening as well. Okay, so what I thought I'd do is just show you on here. Okay, and what I'm doing is just with some of those very fine burrs that I was struggling with to get out, that kept jumping from one side to the other. I'm going to use the ceramic striker to help me get rid of those. Alright. Oh, that noise you can hear is my dog just on the side here. this this burr, eh? It's just, it's one of those things, eh? Sometimes, you know, when you're doing it like out of camera, and you can just manage to take the burr off. You know, jump on camera and boom, the burr just wants to. Oh geez, I wasn't even in shot. Sorry about that. You know, the burr just wants to keep jumping from side to side. But you know, when it keeps jumping, when the burr keeps jumping and you're only using a very, very light amount of pressure, what that's telling you is that you're right on the apex of the bevel, okay, which is a good thing. You're right on that apex if it's jumping across real easily. Okay, and so it's just a battle of, the challenge is just to slowly and gradually not go too hard or too fast, and remove that very fine wire. Such a touchy game, because you get one side, you're trying to go light, and it can push to the other side, and it's just one of those things. Whenever you do things on camera, then it wants to play up more than before. Or maybe it's just that, you know, when you're on camera, sometimes you're rushing it because you're trying to speed it up, so that people, you know, to get your thing across without, you know, wasting people's time. You want to try and cut down on the amount of time that the video is going for the viewer, and in doing so you may end up rushing the process, applying too much pressure, I think I might have it. Not quite. Let's try that. Okay, now this paper here, it's very, very flimsy, so it's a very, very hard paper to cut. But if you get like a a harder paper, okay, you can see this is the type of paper a lot of people will use, you know, when they're showing stuff on YouTube. They'll use a harder paper, which is much easier to cut, and you can just see just how easy that is to cut there, you know. All right. See how we go with the tip. Oh, that destroyed that. Okay, so that gives you a better idea of you know, how well it's cutting, and we haven't even stropped it. Okay, so if you wanted to you know, as I say, you know, strop it with a leather strop or something like that. I'm just using a bit of cloth here. Okay, you know, you'll get better you know, better results, you know. But anyway, you can see the standard of the knife, and this is just a this is just a cheap Charlie steak knife from the kitchen. Okay, so you know, it's just something I wanted to show you with the ceramic striker, and also using a different type of paper. You're gonna get probably a better idea of how sharp it is. Okay, so I thought I'd come back and quickly throw that in. Yeah, a good piece of equipment. I would highly recommend it. Now, a couple of last things before I go. The type of knots that I've done here on the leather strap is fisherman's knots. Okay, so it's called a double fisherman's knot on this side and a double fisherman's knot on this side, and that allows you to make it larger or make it smaller. Okay, alright, again on camera, wants to play up. Alright, make it smaller, alright, to whatever size you want. And this knot here that I've got here, it's probably a little bit hard to see, alright, but that knot there, there's different types of knots that you can do, but this one here that I chose is called a Napoleon's knot, I believe it's called, or Napoleon's hitch, or I think it's a Napoleon's knot. Okay, so if you're interested in that, you should be able to find that online. Anyway, again, just thought I'd quickly chuck that in. Thank you.